welcome to episode 4 of the Year of the Fire Horse. Today, in the most vulnerable episode so far, and maybe the most vulnerable podcast episode ever, we're leaving no stone unturned. We're gonna cover the shadows and the collective of sexual shame and finances and money, financial shame, sex work, and how to heal ourselves through shadow work, even from STDs. Because, yes, we're going to go there and talk about our own issues, including STDs, finances, the shame of being too much or not being enough. So, thank you for being here with us.
Hello. Oh, thank you for this introduction. And yeah, I feel a certain nervousness right now because this is going to be an episode for me that is going to be on a personal level, deeply healing and also deeply edgy to talk
Yes.
about. So I'm just extremely grateful for this work and for you as listeners. And I really truly hope that what we are going to share today is going to be yeah, not just healing for us individually, but healing for the collective and really yeah, showing how hard it can be even for people who have done the work, some of the work, and it's still so hard. So I really hope that by sharing my story, I can be, yeah, an inspiration and also to show you that it's easy to fuck up and fuck up over a long period of time.
Oh,
Whew.
thanks
Mm,
for your vulnerability, Kaya. We're in this together, and why we do this, or I do this, my main motivation is always liberation, the sense of enlightenment for self and for all living beings, because it's just one self, right?
hmm
And yeah, it can be hard, but when we get together with the right people, it can also be easy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we
Mm,
just had our personal intro before tuning in for the episode, and
hmm
it's just so healing to be able to show ourselves and be seen and celebrated and validated, even in our shame, because shame cannot survive the light. When you share things that you're ashamed
mm,
of with a loving person, a person that you trust, that can hold that safe space for you, then the shame dissolves. So I feel
mm,
we just did that for ourselves, and we're about to do that for the public as well, showing these vulnerable sides of ourselves that are raw and tender,
mm,
but that resonate for so many, because so many people out there have been sexually shamed. There's so much sexual shame in society around STDs, around receiving a proper sexual education. And again,
hmm
this self-worth issues and also financial issues are huge shadows of the collective, and very aligned with the theme of the new moon in Taurus, which is what is guiding us today. It's been a few days ago because we are recording this episode with a couple days of delay according to the official calendar, but a very humbling reminder that in life you need structure and you need flexibility. You need both,
mm.
because our lovely Kaya here just moved or took a break from her usual life in Bali, and she's back in Europe.
Yes. Back in Germany for a little while. Yeah, and this is my hometown, Hamburg, where I'm at right now. Or my birth town, I guess. Might not be my hometown anymore. Um, but yeah, so it's yeah, it's been a quite the journey the last 48 hours. And now settling into yeah, a different pace of life here and also yeah, a bit of a reverse culture shock with everyone speaking German around me, which feels bizarre. Um, but yeah,
Jawohl.
so. Mm-hmm. Yep. Ooh, okay.
Hi, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. It
Mm,
feels good to have you closer geographically and to know that the next episode is going to be recorded in person. We're going to be together
yes.
in Kassel in
Mm,
Belgium right after a shamanic sexuality retreat. That's going to be the bomb.
definitely. And I'm looking forward to recording in person again. It also feels super nice to be on the same time zone again. And it also feels reassuring to know that like a lot of the people that I hold so dear in my heart and also in my soul and like that are so important for my personal journey right now, that they are in Europe right now because there was resistance to going back. And
Hmm.
I'm here for like some family reasons. My dad's turning 90 next month. So that's an important reason to be back in Europe for a little bit, I think.
Wow. Yeah, family roots. Sometimes we can have resistance around that
Mm.
because that was our first foundation and it didn't always feel so nice,
Hmm.
especially for fiery whores like us. We may not have always felt super accepted by society, by family, and that's definitely been the case for me. I recently wrote my last book chapter on my newsletter. I call it the Professor Whore Split because I was raised to be like a professor, an intellectual, a successful professional.
Hmm.
But my sexual side, the whore in me, that is an archetype that is alive in everyone to some degree or another, men, women of all ages, was not allowed to express ourselves. And that
Mm.
creates a friction, internal conflict.
Hmm.
And it's in the collective mind, in the society, but also in the individual one. So, yeah, sexual shame, which is a huge killer of pleasure, is one of the first
Hmm.
topics we wanted to tackle today. And
Hmm.
just as a bit of context for society, like I've been hearing from a couple of expert podcasts that we are literally going collectively as a Western society and even the world through an epidemic of bad sex. People are not
Mm.
having sex anymore because there are screens, there's stress at work, there are, other priorities, but that's making people depressed and anxious
Mm.
because the sexual side of us as human beings is important. It's a big part of who
Hmm.
we are. But yeah,
Hmm.
only when it can be expressed freely and safely, which is not
Mm.
what we learned at school or from our families. So we're building a new paradigm here. And yeah, being pioneers sometimes can feel lonely and hard, like you were saying, right? Like we're showing so much of ourselves that feels so vulnerable,
Mm.
and it may not always be well received by others.
Yeah, I think in society, like the desire of wanting to have sex is something that, is kind of not talked about or even like shunned, especially in women. Um, and then there's like this stamp of, oh, you're a slut because you want to have sex. Oh, you've had 10 partners. Oh, you're a slut. There is a lot of shaming onto that sort of behavior. And as you said, like wanting to have sex is or having a desire is natural and it's beautiful and uniting two bodies is just such a beautiful act of connection and love and like might not be like the deep love if it's someone that you yeah but that you just kind of connected with once or two times, but there is still something important about two bodies merging. There's still some kind of magic that's created. And yeah, I
Totally.
do think society has, yeah, kind of lost like the meaning of sex, and like
Yeah.
the beauty of it and the magic of it. And Yeah, I think in my circles, in Bali, there is like more awareness of it. But yeah, when I look around, like sort of my friends, my old friends, yeah, there is like often a taboo that we don't really talk about sex, like maybe a little bit, but as soon as there's a like we might talk about the pleasurable part, but if there is a problem, then ooh,
Mm,
that's
there you
not
go.
something that's comfortably discussed even among like close friends of mine. Um, yeah, it's
Right.
mostly like, oh yeah, we had such amazing sex and blah de blah, but not like the issues. And you can't tell me people don't have issues. Like, so yeah, I think even among ourselves, like often the more difficult subjects are spared. And then when someone does have the courage to speak up, often people will be like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy you said that because
Yeah.
the same was for me. I've had something similar, but I didn't want to share." And so yeah, there's still
Yeah.
um so much shame. And I think this is also the kind of Taurus energy that's yeah, allowing us to like move through this now in a kind of more slow and sensual way, if that's yeah.
Exactly. Taurus is slow and steady and sensual, and pleasure is
Mhm.
essential. Pleasure is felt in the body of whatever kind. And sexual energy or sexual pleasure is just a part of sensual pleasure. And so many people also learn to associate intimacy with sex. So when they want
Mm,
physical contact, they sort of feel their only option is sex, and there are so many things you can do in between. And
mm,
by
mhm,
all means, like I love sex magic. I love going all the way. But I also love cuddling and just
mm,
slow and deliberate physical touch and a hug
mm, mhm,
and a massage and some impact play, even if you're into the king,
mm,
like we are. But yeah, it's just about learning that there are so many possibilities to connect. And when we were younger, we didn't have that knowledge. So you were
yeah.
just mentioning people like sex being the union of two bodies, and for me, it's two souls as well, whether we're conscious of it or not, because
Mhm,
body and spirit, soul, mind is all very
mhm,
connected.
mhm,
Um, the thing is that many people who have casual sex or one night stands, they're doing it unconsciously. Because when you really know what's going on, like the level of depth that goes on when you have sex, as in, genital sex with someone,
mm,
you become very selective, very, very selective.
mhm,
Because it also satiates you way deeper when you do it
mhm,
consciously.
mhm,
But yeah, both of us, and we were talking about this just in our check-in before the recording, and now I guess it's time maybe to go into that cave that's a bit scary, but it's so healing for us and for the world. Both of us had very unconscious sex life when we were younger, like
mhm,
lots of one night stands, because we have a lot of fire, a lot of sex drive, a lot of lust for life, and unless you learn to channel that consciously, that can become self destructive, or it can become compulsive, or it can become toxic. So, yeah. And along that way, with all the shame and the slut shaming, I've been slut shamed since I was 13, since I even before started having sex, and that's the case for so many women. Just because you have curves and a feminine body that society considers provocative, you
mm,
just slut shamed so often. And then if you add to that a more sexual behavior, because you have that fire in you and you just want pleasure, which is natural, nothing wrong,
mhm,
um, then there are all these judgments. And then you feel that you need to do it in hiding, and repression just feeds more of the shame, because the cure is always, conscious awareness and shining light on it. So, yeah, we both struggle with that sexual shame, and in connection with that, with STDs, sexually
mhm,
transmitted diseases, that according to like German new medicine or psychosomatic types of medicine that connect the causes of disease to psycho-emotional states. Shame and fear are behind a lot, if not most, of our physical conditions because those emotions weaken us, weaken our immunity. So when we were feeling shame for wanting sex, and in my case, that included also like cheating on partners and being untruth and unclear in my communication because I didn't know
Mm.
to do any better, then yeah, STDs come with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think as I like in our check-in before, when you asked me if I knew this new German medicine, and I didn't really know about it, so you just explained it to me, and then putting that framework onto my situation was like, wow, it so fits like perfectly. So yeah, basically, about 11 years ago, I was on a break with my partner at the time, and I didn't have the communication skills to ask, does that mean we're not having sex with anyone else? So I just kind of assumed that it would be okay to have sex with someone else, but it's like a bit of a gray zone whether it was cheating or not. Like it felt like cheating, to be honest with you, at the
Yeah.
time. Um, Even though it wasn't discussed, but it did feel like cheating. And so I had sex, unprotected sex with this guy, a colleague of mine from work, who,
Mm.
use my language, was just actually, he was just not a very nice person, but he shown interest in me, and I just kind of felt like having sex with him. And from this wonderful man, I contracted genital herpes um, in this date. And this was, yeah, just over 10 years ago. And I remember contracting it and then just feeling such shame around it
Mm.
that all I wanted to do is just hide it as much as possible, not mention it, not think about it, get the minimal information that I needed, and just make sure that I didn't have any sexual contact with anyone during an outbreak, obviously, and be protected through condoms whenever I would have sex. But still doesn't mean the risk is zero. So yeah, I've been lying to my sexual partners for over a decade. And there is so much shame attached to that knowledge as well, and that statement, in addition to, yeah, just feeling a lot of shame around having this virus, which, yeah, you cannot get rid of ever. Um, and yeah, it's very challenging to navigate. And my partner came to Bali, and I had not told him during our RBDSM conversation, thinking it would only be a one night stand with him potentially, not something long term. And then, yeah, just feeling so much dread and fear around like, how am I going to tell him now? Because I lied to him in RBDSM. Oh, I hid something. And how could I possibly make this up? Like it's kind of too late. And then he came to visit me in Bali, and I was just thinking about this the entire like the week before. I was just like, how am I going to say it? How am I going to say it? Okay, I need to
Mm.
wait for the perfect moment. And then I mean, Bali gives you what you need. So obviously, on the second day, I started to feel like an itch, and then I was like, "Oh fuck." So I had no escaping, and I had to tell him. And I wish I could say I had the courage to be like, "Okay, babe, we need to have a conversation." I didn't even have the courage to do that. Like I literally was forced into having the conversation because my body was forcing me to have this conversation. And I guess it's incredible that my body is capable of making me do things I don't want to do, or my ego doesn't want me to do. So yeah, I had to tell him like, part of me was so grateful for my body. And I was like, oh, thank God. I have to tell him. There's no escaping.
Yeah.
Oh, it felt like such a relief and also like a complete, I was just so terrified. And yeah, just I don't want to go into too many personal details, of course, but he was just so supportive and loving, and like it's still very challenging to navigate the scenario and the situation. Like not saying it's easy, but just to have talked about it with him, and then I've talked about it with like two female friends, and you, of course, now. It feels like such a liberation. Like, wow. Like now my body just feels so relaxed, and I feel like I'm going to have to I mean, obviously it's a lifelong disease, so taking me goddamn long enough. Um, but yeah, now this is like the last thing that I've carried within me that I've never talked about, never shared with anybody. And now it's out. And yeah. It feels really good to talk about it, and to share this publicly, actually. And we were just discussing earlier, it feels less edgy to share it about this publicly than it feels sharing it with an intimate partner. Because there is this fear that I have of, and I imagine a lot of you out there, whatever thing you might have hidden inside of you, or with you that you are afraid to share with the world or with a partner. I have this fear of, what are they going to think? Are they going to reject me? Are they going to think I'm disgusting? Are they going to think, oh, she's a whore, she's a slut? And I shouldn't worry about what they think. And it's their choice of saying, hey, I don't want to have sex with you. And that's amazing if that's their truth. But still, there's something inside of me that just fearing this judgment, which has kept me from sharing this story for so long, and I don't want to do that anymore. So,
Hmm.
woo!
Whew.
Yeah.
What a leap of faith and a power move. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, Kea, for
Woo.
sharing that with me and with the world, for sharing the beauty of your courage.
Mm,
Because, yeah, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is to feel the fear and do anyhow what we know
mm,
is right. And it can take us a while. It can take us 10 years. It can take us as long as it takes us.
mm, mm-hmm.
Eventually, like you were saying, the truth always comes to light. Always, always,
Yeah.
always. And sometimes it's because, yeah, your body just shouts it when your
Yeah.
mouth is not ready to speak it yet because you're terrified. Like you were saying, opening yourself up to an intimate partner is one of the scariest things because the risk of rejection feels like
Mm-hmm.
so real.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
had similar themes coming up recently in my close relationships with men and with women, friendships and partnerships of, yeah, this fear of being seen as too much, as too fiery, as too sexual, a fear of showing my desire for connection, fear of showing my vulnerability. And I've done it anyway. And it's been physically painful because the
Mm-hmm.
shame, it physically, it feels like an ache in your heart and not in your stomach. It paralyzes your body. It's very real in the nervous system. And then you just breathe. You hold yourself through this hard moment. And at the
Mm-hmm.
end of it, there's always relief. Always, always, always. Even when the person makes you feel rejected or walks away, we know by now it's divine redirection. But like more often than not, it's funny how the right people will just feel more connected
Mm.
afterwards because you go through the conflicts together and then there's repair. And then the relationship grows and upgrades thanks to this conflict that we were speaking about in our last episode. It's like a mini death, but then there's the resurrection and the next level
Mhm.
of the relationship and the next level of ourselves. Because, yeah, when you hold secrets, the lies, the secrets have power over you.
They really do. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, when I own authentically who I am, at the pace that my nervous system can sustain, of course, I'm not gonna say, hey, now go publish all your secrets on social media. We're doing it, but we've been through a process of years of inner work to be able to own the
Mm.
electric charge in the nervous system of this truth of who I am fully, like the full version of who I am that contains opposites. That's individuation in Jungian psychology, is enlightenment for spiritual people. It's owning the full spectrum of human experience with pleasure. So removing the
Mm.
shame so that the pleasure can arise. And sometimes, like, for instance, having like all this desire for connection or sexual desire, it's not even so much about satisfying the desire, because yeah, that gives us pleasure, we know that, but it's about finding also the pleasure in holding the charge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm.
So sort of delayed gratification, which is very much in line with the slow, steady sensuality of Taurus new moon.
Mm. Oh yeah, that's very interesting actually. Yeah, there's something in there for sure for me as well. Like for s- I mean pretty much like most of my life, I would say maybe the last 6 months I would take out, but I would just go on a date and there would be no problem. Like I don't have this 3 date rule or some crap like that. Like if I feel in the moment I want to have sex with that person, I would be like, yeah, okay, cool. And I never saw that there was a beauty also in like, yeah, containing that sexual energy. Doesn't mean I don't want to have sex with that person, like not at all, but just like, let's see how it feels like if we don't go for it straight away. And that's kind of, it's still a little bit edgy for me to do that.
Me too.
But yeah, it's
That's
something that,
literally edging, you know?
yeah, oh yeah, true, yeah, true. Um, yeah, it feels beautiful actually, and I'm like, okay, maybe there is something to this 3 date rule. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert in the 3 date thing at all. I'm an expert in the 1 date rule. But yeah, it's there's something about this Taurus like slow kind of pace. Um And yeah, I think we were discussing earlier also the fire horse. I mean, like the animal. I don't know if I was pronouncing it right, but the horse has several speeds as well. Like, yes, it's amazing and beautiful if it gallops and like cannot be stopped. And it has a direction and it knows exactly where it's going and it's just racing at the speed of light. That's what it feels like. But there are also other speeds, slower speeds that the horse can take. And if the horse was just galloping the entire time, that would be pretty exhausting for both rider and the horse. And um, yeah, I think there is also beauty in recognizing there are different speeds at arriving at something, and sometimes like decisions or maybe also an idea takes some time and some slower approach. And then there's moments where, nope, we need the really like powerful galloping. But yeah, just
Yeah.
bringing those different speeds and elements in, I think also quite rewarding, especially for people that are very fiery and like want to go really fast all the time. Like I think the two of us are more in that category. Can feel really great to also see, okay, there's also value in going slower. And maybe like some of you out there resonate either with our energies or if you are more of the slower type, then yeah, that's amazing. That has so much value. And likewise, the kind of more speedy approach then for you might be something that feels edgy, or challenging. And then, yeah, also find solace in knowing that that's totally fine, to feel that way. And it can still be rewarding to go at a quicker pace sometimes. Mm.
Yeah. Thank you for that beautiful reminder, Kea. For me,
Mm.
the beauty there is in the variety, in the ability to
Mm-hmm.
choose. Because we're only free when we're free to choose, and we're only free to choose when we can choose between different poles, polarities, options
Mm-hmm.
in the range. So we can go super quick or we can go super slow or anything in between.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone has that ability. It's about finding like, okay, what's your comfort zone and how can you counterbalance that or enlarge that?
Mm-hmm.
And something that for me, for instance, has been resonating lately is slowing down and realizing that many times, like the biggest obstacle inside of me to slow down is this judgmental voice in my head. Because since I was a little kid, I was rewarded, and people in general were rewarded for being quick learner, quick at sports.
Mm-hmm.
Just speed is rewarded in society in general. It's a very young masculine society that we grew up in, and slowing down the yin feminine side of sensuality and the rhythm of nature that sometimes is slower, although in late nature there are also volcanoes and waterfalls. You have the whole range, so it's reclaiming the slow and steady wins the race.
Mm-hmm.
The power or the beauty of taking the scenic route sometimes, even when it's longer.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Very beautiful. And yeah, you're right. Society does reward speed. I had not really reflected on that. And now thinking back, like at school, or like at home when I was a kid, like, yes, it was rewarded. And you're like, wow, you got that so fast. Wow, amazing. And it's very difficult. I recall, I think it was pretty much physics and chemistry. I just did not understand. Um, So it was very difficult for me to, I felt such a shame again of like, wow, how can I be so quick in other fields? And this one I just do not understand at all. And I remember, like in Germany, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Germany, you kind of are forced to do maths until almost the very end of like your high school. And I was a slow learner in maths. I didn't get it straight away, and still, I wouldn't say I'm particularly great, but I do remember there was a moment where I was like, oh, I think I'm kind of getting it. And then it was very rewarding after I got it, but it was not like the teacher explained and I understood. It's not like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, there is also this beautiful, yeah, like reminder that fast isn't always the best, even though we're told that at school. And sometimes it just takes a little bit longer, and that's totally fine. Mm.
Yeah. And there's this, I think it's an African saying, like connected to this concept of Ubuntu togetherness, that if you want to
Mm-hmm.
go fast, go alone, but if you're gonna go far, go together.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is,
Beautiful.
a group can only move at the pace of the slowest
Mm-hmm.
component or member of the group. So, of course, we sometimes need to slow down, and that includes our own inner parts, our own
Mm-hmm.
internal constellation. There are parts of us or parts of life that we're going to understand very quickly, and other parts are going to be slower, and that's okay. Yeah, it's about
Agreed.
finding harmony, putting together the slower and the quicker parts, and understanding that it's all perfect.
Yeah.
It's all divine timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. And yeah, I think just this like community building and making sure that, yeah, as you were saying, I think it's beautiful, like the team or the group can move at the speed of the slowest. So being very considerate, because at some point it might be you also, and then you'll be grateful to receive the support of the group to keep you going. And in other times it might be someone else, and encouraging another person to keep going in whatever field it might be. Feels so much more beautiful than putting shame on them for being slow, not
Yeah.
understanding. And that's, yeah, I think I see that in society so much. And there is so much shaming of people for not understanding, for not getting it, for being too slow. So yeah, I think that's something that I want to take with me as well, to really
Yeah.
encourage people, yeah, to go further together. There is no shame in not knowing something. That's
We
fine
get
too.
to heal that now together.
Mm,
And
mhm,
we were talking before, and that's very connected to the themes of this new moon as well, is self-worth.
mhm,
Self-worth that goes beyond the shame, because like you were saying, in some areas we're going to be naturally stronger and in others weaker, and we can help each other out, complement each other. Nobody's perfect, nobody's an island. We like God exists and manifested as many just precisely because of that, because we're all different and unique.
mhm, mhm,
So yeah, we were speaking also before the episode about like body shame, for instance, or self-worth, tying your self-worth to your appearance, tying your self-worth to your performance, tying your self-worth to whatever, which is it's just a lie, because it's going to be a small part of who you are, and it's never going to
mhm,
be perfect. It can always be improved. So, whatever insecurities eventually go away when you realize, okay, yes, there is room for improvement. We're not gonna deny that. I don't know if, for instance, for me, like my whole life, I was insecure about not being skinny enough, which is
mm,
sort of stupid because I've never been fat. But in my family, one of the worst things you could be was fat,
mm, mhm,
fat and slow. So I was rewarded or encouraged to be quick and skinny, and
mhm,
pretty, and like good girl conditioning, smart good girl conditioning. And
mhm.
so I dieted even before I hit puberty. I was already dieting,
Wow.
and if I put on a little bit of weight, I would be super insecure. And
Mm,
at some point I was borderline anorexic,
wow.
fucked up shit. Then family and friends got worried at some point, and many women in my close environment had similar issues. And the healing there for me, and I've seen this in other people I've helped as well, is when you accept that, okay, I cannot control this fully. Like there will be naturally moments in my life where I will see myself better and worse. Weight
Mm,
goes up and down slightly. Self-perception, some days I'm gonna feel cute, some days I'm gonna feel like shit. That's normal. So, like, how can I embrace that and at the same time still take active steps to
mhm,
go towards the ideal? So, if I want to be in good shape, it's not because I want to be anorexic, it's because I want to feel slim and light and agile in my body. So, how can I cultivate that as a state of being in ways that are healthy and sustainable, as opposed
mhm,
to just starve myself, for
mhm,
instance, you know?
mhm.
And you were mentioning other issues of yours with self-worth and image that I think could be very interesting to discuss as well.
Uh, can you give me a little cue? I think I discussed so many things. Oh, the boobies.
If you feel like talking about it,
Yes,
because I
yes,
think it can
yes.
be very healing for everyone.
Yes, yes, yes. So thank you for that cue. Yeah, this is honestly, this year for me is so transformational, because there were two things that have contributed to this sense of like feeling an insane amount of shame. That's kind of been a theme for, yeah, my entire life until like about the boobs and until about 5 years ago, and then the herpes until about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. So just two things I have never like that were kind of buried inside of my body so deep that I didn't want to access them ever. And so one, yeah, we discussed the herpes just now, but the other was like the shame felt much deeper. And it was like an intense body shame that I felt with regards of my breath that like didn't develop properly, and they were like very small, like almost like male, just like little stumps. Um, and I remember just being a teenager and everyone around me was kind of like growing boobs and growing like into women, and I wasn't. And I was just like, oh my God, what's going on? It's so weird. And I never spoke to anyone about it. I was like hiding my body completely, and kind of wearing very like large like t-shirts and large clothing that would cover this up. And I was then, yeah, afraid of having people see me. And there was this desire to connect with men especially. But the second they would get close to me, I would feel like, no, 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 they can't see me. I don't want them to see me. So I would push them away. And then, like, the only times I would have sex would be in the dark or completely drunk. Or ideally, the other person would be more drunk than me, so they wouldn't like see me properly. Um, yeah, and it didn't really occur to me that there was something I could do to change it. Um, because I also was like, no, but God or whoever made this body gave this body to me for a reason. And oh my God, if I wanted to have surgery, I would actually need to go and like expose myself in a way that felt uncomfortable. I mean, I had been going to the gynecologist obviously for like checkups and stuff. That always felt edgy for me. But like admitting to myself or admitting to someone that I feel shame around my body and that I want to change it was like another level. And actually, it was during COVID. Somehow I was in a women's circle, like an online women's circle. And I don't know, somehow I got this like energy and this encouragement through this women's group of like, wow, what the hell am I doing? There's this is not a good life that I'm leading, letting shame dictate my life and not having like a sexuality at all, like far from fulfilling. Um, so yeah, I decided to get a boob job about 5 years ago. And yeah, it's been one of the most life-changing, possibly the most life-changing thing I've done. It's completely transformed the way I see my body. I see myself. I see, like, I love my body now. And I love just seeing myself in the mirror. And this is like, I know the body that I was supposed to have. And yeah, at the same time, I felt so much shame talking about the boob job. The one shame had been replaced by another shame of like, oh, what are people gonna think that like I needed validation through bigger breasts? What are they gonna say? What are they gonna think? Oh, are men gonna like them? And like, how's it gonna feel? And yeah, even though I loved my body and how it looked when I was on my own, looking into the mirror, and I loved being like naked at beaches or at the lake or something, but at the same time, felt like crazy shame talking about it. And I didn't like when people asked me about it, and I got defensive. And yeah, um, and there's still some friends of mine that I never told. And I don't know, somehow they didn't notice. I don't know. Um, So yeah, this has been yeah, this is also something that like I for the first time really opened up about. It was at a retreat this year in January. Um, and for the first time I stepped up in front of a group and I shared about this. And I shared about all the shame that I first felt and how that had been replaced by another shame and how it felt like me as a teenager growing up, like confused and not feminine, and the way I had sex at the like just for many, many, many years, and how I felt like my teenage times, I just didn't have like what teenagers are supposed to experience, I guess. And like
Hmm.
first love and all of that, it just
Hmm.
wasn't really there for me. And yeah, that was the first time I spoke up about it. And now this year, like now the second, like the herpes is, yeah, it feels like the second thing that I've carried with me for so long. And that was something that I just kept shoving down. Just put it into the deepest, darkest place, please, where no one can ever find it. And yeah, this is now the second, the second thing that I'm opening up about. And it feels difficult, but it feels really good as well. Mm.
Thank you for sharing all
Mm.
that. So
Mm-hmm.
sharing all of you, letting all
Mm-hmm.
of you be known and therefore loved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Feels so healing to receive those words. And also when we had our check-in earlier, just me sharing for the first time to you about the herpes and you just sitting there in full presence and with love, and I could see it. Oh, and I really felt it, and yeah, it felt really amazing to not feel judged because there is a lot to be judged, sure, and I know that. And yet, that's maybe for a different discussion. And at that moment, all I needed was just to be seen. And yeah, that was a very beautiful example of mm, love and receiving this without
Yeah,
a judgment. And yeah,
thank
the discussion on judgment can come later. And I think that that's
you.
also valid if
There's
that's
a
something.
lot. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. For me, the difference is between judgment as in condemnation versus discernment. Because
Mhm.
going back to, the sexual shame and the slut shaming, um, we were speaking about before, like how coming out with an STD to partners or to communities can feel edgy. I
Mhm.
was slut shamed by doctors. They were like, "You were having unprotected sex?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bitch, it's none of your business. You judging me is not helping me feel better and open
Yeah.
up to get to healing." So we all make mistakes. That's the point. So discernment is knowing what did not work for you. But if you remove the shame and the blame and the judgment, the heavy side of the judgment, you are left with that positive discernment in a way that allows you to learn from your mistakes. But it's not by pointing fingers, by saying, "Hey, you did that wrong." It's like, "Hey, how did that make you feel? And how
Mm.
can you make sure that you feel better next time?"
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful distinction. Thank you for bringing that in. Yeah. Mm. Ooh, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. Thank you for sharing your biggest vulnerabilities. For me, I'd say body
Yeah,
image
what is it
wise
for
was
you?
like weight for body image, definitely
Mm-hmm.
was the biggest one. Then the sexual shame was a huge one as well. And then connecting to the final theme of Taurus, which is finances,
Mm-hmm.
money. So
Mm-hmm.
I grew up like okay with money, but I remember since I was a teenager, I was like in the leftist punk side of the spectrum. I was like, fuck money, society is so unequal, the world would be a better place without money, blah, blah, blah. And then I was an employee at university for years, right? Those were my like main jobs. with a brief stint as a sex worker. I didn't like that. Brief stint as a law firm at a law firm. I didn't like that. Like the corporate world or the world of money out there felt like hostile and too harsh. And
Mm-hmm.
then life brought me through my spiritual awakening and everything to become this sort of, holistic therapist, healer, and to be self-employed. So I needed to make peace with self-worth issues, shadows around money. People who have money are evil. You cannot ask for money for your services because they are a gift from God. So many, like so much fucked up programming. And to this day, one of my biggest shames is that I am not financially stable. You know,
Mm-hmm.
over the past 5 years that I have my business, I've made money. I've spent money a lot in my education and in traveling and in yeah, investing in myself. And for me, like the hardest thing was to learn to value what I had to offer and to ask for money for it. Because,
Mm-hmm.
well, there's a spiritual healer slash starving as artist archetype that was strong in me. Then there's the good girl conditioning. And then there's the exploitation of emotional support from women in society that was not
Mm-hmm.
recognized as paid labor. And
Very
much of
true.
what I bring to the table is emotional support. So, because I grew up seeing that this is just something I give for free or people give for free, then it
Mm-hmm.
was a journey to learn to value that and charge money for that in accordance with the value that is being offered. And then there's also like the stigma against sex work, because what I do is
Mm-hmm.
not exactly sex work. Like it does not involve sexual activity, but I teach sexual education. I teach sexual skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of what I do. So a part of me was ashamed of coming out like that, even to my family. I still remember when I told my mom, "Hey, mom, I'm doing a dominatrix training," and she was like, "Are you a prostitute now?" And I'm like, "No, mom, don't worry, it's not prostitution, but it is borderline sex work."
Mm-hmm.
It is. So, yeah, owning all that has been a hell of a journey for me, and that
Mm-hmm.
has prevented me from making the money that I could be making because, yeah, I was just scared of asking for what I wanted, of receiving as well, because I felt, I needed to always give, give, give. That's also people
Mm-hmm.
pleaser conditioning that I had. And yeah, thank you for listening to me in this because wow, it does feel like a relief. Like, oh my God, so much shame I had as well around
Mm-hmm.
struggling financially, around not being able to own my worth, um, around yeah, my issues with always wanting to give and not being able to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you think about it, you come out of it at the other side, it just feels so silly. Like you wake up from a bad dream, like really, like I was treating myself like that. I was criticizing myself like that. I was being so hard on myself for that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why?
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story. I think many of you out there will be able to resonate. And there's so much, yeah, as you mentioned, societal conditioning upon women to give, and many things are for free. And yeah, I mean, your work is so valuable. And yeah, I was discussing with my friend here in Hamburg, who has a 4-year-old son. We were just discussing school curriculum, and like I was just dreaming up this idea of, wow, someone like you in a school once a week teaching kids like sexual education, not just having like two pictures in a book about the biology of genitals. and then let's not talk about it anymore because oh, it might make the kids uncomfortable or the parents are uncomfortable telling their kids. And imagine how healthy I think the kids would grow up if only there was someone like you. And also, there is so much healing. Like your work is almost priceless.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it kind of saddens me to see that there is this shame on your end to receive because the work you do is just
Hmm.
so important. And yeah, I'm happy to support you in
Hmm.
moving through this shame. And really, you deserve to be paid like a queen for the work that you do. Um, yeah. Oof.
Hmm. Thanks for seeing me in that, love. For now, I educate
Mhm.
adults. In fact, in my website, there are now like the courses I recorded in Copenhagen are finally uploaded, female and male pleasure. Let's see about
Amazing.
kids. But I totally resonate with what you said. And yeah, there was a final note I wanted to make on the financial shame, because in my case, it was about lack of resources or struggling for money. But you were mentioning that for you, when you
Mhm.
were working for Google and making a shitload of money, the opposite was also true. Being ashamed of having too much, being ashamed of your privilege. And by the way, I also felt that when I moved to Latin America and I saw how
Mhm.
much poverty there is around. So that also contributed to my inability to make money, because I was feeling guilty that I'm charging good money for my services when there are so many people struggling out there, right? So you felt that
Mhm.
too, you were telling.
Yeah, it was so funny when we were pre-discussing the episode and you brought up the theme of the shame around finances, and I was like, I don't know if I can contribute much to the discussion. And then actually it transpired that, yeah, when I worked at Google, I got paid a lot of money. And especially like it kind of hit me, this privilege hit me, especially during COVID when nurses were literally like saving lives, risking their own lives to save patients and receiving a pay that I don't know how much it is, but it was discussed publicly, at least in Germany, how little it was. And yeah, and then I was there in my like home office and I had the perfect setup and I was just, yeah, I felt a lot of shame for my privilege. I felt a lot of shame for receiving so much money for a job that I felt
Mm.
like it's just not important. Um, and there, I'm not saving any lives. Just like randomly, someone decided that the work that I do should receive this amount of money, but there's no like, there was just, yeah, I just felt, why am I getting this much money for something that some people argue might even harm society? Maybe that's why they pay you so well. Um, but yeah, there was definitely that shame on my end of like almost wanting to hide.
Mm.
Um, like I was never one to buy designer clothes and so on because I was like, that doesn't resonate. Um, that doesn't resonate with me. I feel more ashamed of having that kind of, yeah, privilege and maybe not maybe not doing enough with that privilege either. Like, redistributing it more and just keeping it all for myself, which felt selfish. I gave some to charity, but I mean, I kept most of it. I don't want to like make myself be like the good Samaritan. If yeah, I kept most of it for myself. So there was this like greed, but also this shame, and then the shame of the greed, and yeah,
Mm.
and now also the shame. Like a lot of people in my life in Bali also have financial struggles, and I do not have that at all. And I also feel like, yeah, I feel ashamed about that. Um, I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
mm,
I feel you. I've been in both sides because, yeah, even if I didn't have so much money, because I never worked for Google. My best years were with university. And well, now I'm building it up in the business, but yeah, that it can take a while.
Mm.
Um, but anyhow, when I moved to Latin America, in comparison to many people, I still had a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when you are the one who has the money and you feel that you, it's not because you're actually making a better contribution to society. It's just luck in a way. It can feel
Yeah.
very shameful and triggering inside. But then I learned, you know, it's a bit what you were saying, like the social responsibility. Yes, I want to be an agent for change. I want to be like modern Robin Hood. I want to contribute to the wealth redistribution.
Mm-hmm.
But for that, I need to be well resourced.
Yeah.
And to be well resourced, I need to feel well resourced, which is feeling safe, which is also independent of the amount of money, because I believe everything starts inside, right? So, how can I build the safety and heal my own financial trauma inside of me so that I can attract and hold more wealth so that I can redistribute the health? And so many spiritual teachers are saying, and I think that's observable, that there's a big wealth redistribution going on in the world right now. States are becoming more and more obsolete as a form of social organization. We need more conscious alternative communities. And money is part of the transition. Money is still material power in the world. So for me, like as a spiritual person, it feels like a responsibility to be able to steward more money
Mm-hmm.
so that I can feel well resourced and help more people. And also, one of my favorite spiritual teachings about money is like, if you are someone who has, if you're not a renunciate, a monk, if you're not a monk, and I don't think anyone here is a monk, if you're watching this, you're probably not a monk or a nun. If you're living in the world, you want to still participate in it
Mm-hmm.
without being consumed by it, of course, but you need money still. So if
Yeah.
you are unable to make and or hold money, this actually is a spiritual disease. It's a psychological, like poverty mindset, is a
Mm-hmm.
psychological limitation normally connected to self-worth, financial trauma growing up. There can be a
Mm-hmm.
lot of good reasons. And it's nobody's fault, but like it's our responsibility to fix this and to improve our relationship to money and physical material resources as well, so that we can truly enjoy them and share them.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. I think this like holding on to like this is mine. I need to accumulate so much, and otherwise I'm not gonna feel safe. Like I have to walk this on my own. This is again the saying you were mentioning. Like in community, like sharing things, it's just yeah, it just feels so true and it resonates so much with me. Um, yeah, I mean, I think like money is yeah, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't have it in a
Yeah,
way.
but
Too much, yeah.
that's when we come to it with the scarcity mindset, and so many
Yes.
people can be rich and still live in scarcity.
Yeah.
That's when we
So
are
true.
slaves to money. But when we realize that money is actually an energy that responds to us,
Yes.
that we can co-create it
Mm-hmm.
and sort of manage it, because it's also connected to God and the divine,
Mm-hmm.
and it's at the service of whatever causes and projects we believe in. For me, that's the
Mm.
healing, to see money as a
Yeah.
tool.
Yes. Not at a means to an end, but as a means.
Yeah,
Like
it's
not
not
the
not as
end
an
goal.
end, but the means
Yes.
to an end.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
not as
that's
an
yeah.
indicator of self-worth either,
Yeah.
but just as, as,
So
as,
true.
as a
Yeah, so
toy, a
true.
tool.
Yes, so true. And I just see that so much. I mean, in like modern society, right? It's like, I think, yeah, actually, I was gonna say more in the masculine, but I think that's not true. Like, who has the most expensive handbag, the most expensive car, the most expensive watch? And if you are in certain society, it's just like, oh, if you don't own, I don't know, like a diamond ring, like, oh, he can't possibly propose to me if it doesn't have, yeah, exactly. Like, how dare he propose to me without a ring that costs, I don't know. Um, so yeah, there's really that self-worth attached to expensive things and
Diamonds
um,
are a girl's best friend.
apparently. And I
Well,
mean, there's again, like nothing wrong with like earning money and then treating yourself because you think like it's a pretty thing or your partner or you buy it for your partner. But I think if it's an indicator of how you fit in society, as opposed to, wow, I really want to give this beautiful ring to her, and not, oh, she's going to be able to show this off to her girlfriends and then it's going to be the biggest ring, so she's going to like elevate in status. That's obviously two very different
yeah,
intentions behind it.
exactly. It's
So
the intention. It's not the
yeah.
thing. It's what it represents. It's not the
Yes.
what, it's the
Hmm.
how. Because then you
Hmm.
can get a boob job and it can be superficial and shallow, or it can be a spiritual act
Hmm.
like you
Yes.
did.
Yeah, so true. And an act of self-love in a
Yeah.
way, and an act of liberation and of freedom, and
Woohoo.
as opposed to, doing it because you feel like otherwise men will not approach you or something, and then it's like, yeah, and then it feels like actually you're more in a cage than before, as opposed to like doing it out of like the liberation. And yeah, I think the how is then
Exactly. And
comes
for me,
in.
that's the real tantra, It's using samsara to break
Hmm.
free from samsara, is using anything for liberation.
Yeah,
And that can totally be done. So I love that. And I think we have more than enough for this episode. Next one is going to be rich as fuck as well. So stay tuned, you beautiful people. Thank you so much for watching. We want to hear more about your stories. Share your shame in safe spaces because that's how you heal. You can
yeah.
share it with us. Here in comments, you can message us. You can find whatever makes you feel safe, seen, heard. That's what we're here for. Liberation
Mm.
for all of us, freedom for all.
Mhm.
Thank you so
Mhm.
much. It's been so much fun.
Mm. Very truly liberating. Thank you so much for being my wonderful co-host, and thank you for everyone out there for taking the time to listen. And mm, I hope you might find liberation in hearing my or our stories. Mm.
We will. See you very soon.